I'm Delegate Barry Knight, representing the 81st District. I'll be a co-chair of the meeting today, along with Senator Norman. This is one of 4 virtual regional meetings on the state budget being held across the Commonwealth today by the Senate Finance and Appropriations and the House Appropriations committees. Each year, the committees are required by law to hold a series of public hearings on the governor's proposed budget to give all of you, the citizens of Virginia, the opportunity to comment on specific issues of concern to you. Today is your opportunity to talk, and our job as legislators to listen to you. Now, let me take a minute before we begin to have the other legislators with us today introduce themselves, and staff's going to call out your name, and then please state your name and the district that you represent.
Delegate Hayes.
Good morning, Delegate Cliff Hayes. Happy New Year, everyone. Representing the 77th House District. This week, it's Chesapeake and a small portion of Virginia Beach.
Delegate Davis.
Good morning, Delegate Davis, representing right now the 84th District, fully encompassed in Virginia Beach.
Delegate Bloxham.
Good morning. I'm Rob Blocks, and I represent the 100th District. That's the Eastern Shore, and then I've got a piece of Norfolk.
Delegate Brewer.
Good morning. I'm Delegate Emily Brewer. I represent parts of Suffolk, all of Isle of Wight, all of Surrey, and 98% of Prince George County at the moment.
Senator Lucas.
Senator Lucas here. I represent the 18th Senatorial District, which includes all a part of Portsmouth, Chesapeake, Suffolk, and 11 localities west.
Senator Locke.
Good morning, Mamie Locke, representing parts of the cities of Hampton, Portsmouth, Newport News, and part of York County.
And Senator Norman.
Tommy Norman, as of today, I represent the 3rd Senatorial District, and I work for Senator Mamie Locke in my spare time.
Okay, thank you very much. We're going to have a few instructions here, and this year we've changed the format of the public hearings, which are usually held in person, to a virtual meeting due to the COVID pandemic. I'm going to start out with a few simple ground rules that'll help our hearing today go smoothly, and at the same time give everyone the opportunity to be heard in a reasonable amount of time. First, when you signed up to speak, you received an email with a Zoom link for the hearing. As of this morning, the House Appropriations and Senate Finance and Appropriations Committee websites were updated to include a listing of each speaker who signed up to speak, along with a number. That's the order in which you will speak. Staff will, from time to time, call out those numbers along with the name from the sign-up list to give you an idea of how far we are down the list. If you are not present at your time to speak for whatever reason, you'll be allowed to speak at the end if you are present in the meeting. As we get closer to your number, staff will move you from the waiting room to actual meeting room so that you can speak. However, please do not speak until your name is called. Remember to unmute yourself as soon as your name is called to minimize transition time. And please, this is very important, limit your remarks to 3 minutes or less. That way, all can be heard in a reasonable amount of time and no one will be left out. We will stay in the meeting until the last speaker that is signed up has had the opportunity to be heard. Please remember, near the end of your 3 minutes, a timer will sound. Please wrap up your comments at that time. After you have completed speaking, staff will move you back to the waiting area where you can continue to watch the hearing or leave altogether. And finally, to hear as many issues as possible and to be respectful of the time of others in the audience, we ask that you avoid duplication when testifying. I can tell you from years of experience that repeating the same testimony on the same issue can actually be counterproductive. If there are several people speaking from the same group, we encourage you to have one spokesperson. You can always mention how many of the other members of your group are listening to show your group's support for your cause. Not only does that save time for everyone, but it's much more effective when making your case. And that's pretty much it. We're glad to be here. And I hope that each one of us will learn something new today and something we hadn't thought about before today. That's a big reason why we're here. And before we call the first speaker, I would like to ask the co-chairman of this meeting, Senator Norman, if he has any remarks to make. Okay, I guess not. So staff, if you will, would you please call out our first speaker who's number 1 on our list?
The first speaker is James Metz.
Mr. Chair, James Metz has been promoted, but I don't see him on.
Hello, Mr. Chair, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, very good. My name is James Metz. I am a member of the Virginia Coalition for Human Rights, VCHR. I am here to request a budget amendment to fund a JLARC study into the rationale for the Commonwealth financing 2 separate agencies to manage foreign direct investment, FDI. The 2 agencies in question are the Virginia Economic Development Partnership Authority, VEDP, and the Virginia Israel Advisory Board, VIAB. In 2017, the General Assembly passed House Bill 2471 to empower the board of VEDP as a supervisory board with the powers and duties of developing a strategic plan for economic development, a marketing plan, and an operational plan. The legislation was in response to a JLARC study that found problems with the way opportunity grants and loans were being tracked, managed, and coordinated. FDI is one of the tools of economic development. Foreign businesses expect the Commonwealth to be consistent and fair in the way foreign direct investment is solicited, opportunity grants and loans are arranged, and performance agreements are enforced. How is there consistency and fairness when the point of contact for businesses from all foreign countries but one is VEDP? Why doesn't the executive director of VIAB report to VEDP's Vice President of Business Investment Administration as an FDI lead generation contractor? VCHR argues that VIAB's status is both a state agency arranging economic development projects and as the exclusive agent for Israeli businesses wishing to do business in the Commonwealth represents a conflict of interest. VCHR requests that JLARC investigate 1, how VIAB's projects are vetted for their compliance with VEDP's Strategic Economic Development Plan, 2, how performance agreements with Israeli businesses are negotiated, and 3, how compliance with these performance agreements is monitored and enforced. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
Next is Dorothy Clark.
Hi, my name is Dorothy Clark. I am a participant of the Partner in Policy Making Program. My state delegate is Barry Knight, and my senator is Bill Distaff. I am here to talk about higher pay rates for direct support professionals. I have been Medicaid waiver services since 2000. I lived in a group home when I first received Medicaid waiver. Now I live in my own apartment, receiving services from the Hope House Foundation. Because of the low pay rates for direct support professionals, DSPs, I have seen many direct support professionals leave for higher paying jobs, like grocery store clerks, working in restaurants, jobs for the city where they often be paid more than $11.47 an hour as starting pay. They also leave for full-time jobs with better benefits. It is important to me that you consider raising the Medicaid reinvestment rates so that support direct professionals can receive higher pay without taking away funds from people like me receiving services, so that I can live a good quality life with the supports I need. The higher pay rates provide direct support professionals with job securities for themselves, families, stabilities, and security for people like me receiving services. Consider giving higher reimbursement rates to direct support professionals when planning this year's budget. Thank you for your time and consideration to hear me today.
Thank you.
Next is David Manley.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, honorable assembled members of the committees. As the president of the Virginia Economic Developers Association and executive director of the Joint IDA of Wythe County, I'm here today to highlight and thank Governor Northam for strong support of economic development in this proposed budget, and to emphasize the importance of this funding to the Commonwealth's future economic competitiveness. Many of these funding recommendations are also consistent with Governor-elect Youngkin's priorities to create 400,000 new jobs during his term by focusing on attracting, retaining, and growing a talented workforce and making it easier to start and grow a business in the Commonwealth. The Virginia Economic Developers Association looks forward to working with him and his team to achieve these goals in every corner of the state. Virginia is fortunate to have so many assets, including a world-class higher education system, the Port of Virginia, which has weathered supply chain disruptions much better than our neighbors on the West Coast, a multimodal transportation network that is well-funded, and we are home to some of the most innovative companies, not just domestically, but around the world. While we've had many successes in recent years, we've also missed opportunities. As we continue to build and prepare for the post-pandemic economy, we know that site readiness is one area that needs significant focus. And the lack of prepared sites has hurt the Commonwealth when competing against neighboring states. Investment in jobs that could have come to Virginia have gone elsewhere. I'd like to focus on a few key areas and underscore the benefits of economic development funding included in this budget, and I'll be brief. The inclusion of $150 million to expand the Virginia Business Ready Sites program is critical to maintaining our attractiveness when recruiting companies. These funds will support the development of mega sites as well as mid-sized sites across the state. Both are important since Virginia must have an economic development program that focuses on the entire Commonwealth. The governor's proposed budget also maintains funding for Go Virginia, the Virginia Jobs Investment Program, and the Commonwealth's Development Opportunity Fund. These are all critical programs that the Virginia Economic Development Partnership uses to incentivize companies to Virginia. We know that the marketplace is only getting more competitive, and continuing strong funding for these programs is vital if we are to keep pace. Additionally, the proposed budget fully funds the Virginia Talent Accelerator Program with an additional $2.3 million this year. The program ensures we're preparing Virginians with the skills and talents companies need. If we don't, another state will. The $100 million allocated for Rebuild Virginia will continue to help small businesses recover from the pandemic. This program has already assisted over 4,000 small businesses. We all know in our communities that small businesses are the lifeblood of the local economies. Finally, the $3.7 million per year increase in funding for the Enterprise Zone program and funding to implement Virginia's international trade plan will allow the Commonwealth to work domestically and with foreign investors to generate further job creation. We know the jobs of tomorrow are diverse, and what may work for folks like myself in Southwest Virginia may be different than the needs in Northern Virginia or Hampton Roads. The array of tools and sufficient funding will help ensure the General Assembly and Governor-elect Youngkin have the resources necessary to fuel economic growth across the Commonwealth. The Virginia Economic Developers Association looks forward to working with the General Assembly and Virginia's new Secretary of Commerce and Trade to help drive economic development. Thank you for your support of economic development. We have a budget that greatly values the work Virginia is doing that helps move the needle forward in generating more opportunity. I appreciate the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Next is Kimberley Rose.
Good morning. My name is Kimberley Rose. I'm here on behalf of the ARC of Virginia. I am here to ask that you support the ARC of Virginia and Virginia Access Plan to rescue the developmental disability system. As you just heard from Dorothy Clark, direct support professionals are so valuable in the lives of people that live with developmental and intellectual disabilities. I've spent the last 15 years as a DSP in Virginia. I live in Hampton, however, I work in Norfolk. I support 8 guys living in their own apartments in Ocean View. I support them with all of the things that we do every day: laundry, cooking, cleaning, maybe getting to the doctors, taking medications, and then all of those things that make our lives whole. So think of all of the hobbies and fun things that we all like to do. Medicaid and licensing says that, we support the folks that we support by having outcomes and skill builders. And every year we're expected to build on these skill builders and outcomes and continue to increase new skills. However, that is extremely difficult to do without an appropriate workforce, a workforce that is turning over at a very rapid pace. My favorite thing about my job is I love watching the people that I support grow, learn, and become their most independent selves. It's just really hard to obtain with such high turnover in this field. The agency that I work for has been down 60% of their workforce in the past year. And this is something that we simply cannot support people that we support to live, thriving lives. We're just merely surviving. Everything becomes health and safety and hygiene. Those become the priorities, not living, a good life, a full life. I come in early, I stay late. It's impossible to get everything done with the workforce that we have in 40 hours. So anything to make a life whole would be, outside of 40 hours. This is a huge problem for the people that I serve, as staff are stretched so thin. So anxiety increases, overall health decreases, and that in turn is going to only increase the need for support, not decrease it. We're on the front lines every day, working for incredibly low, unlivable wages. As a supervisor, the interviews for staff were so few and so far between because direct support professionals can go anywhere, work fast food, work in a grocery store, work in a restaurant, and make the same amount of money, if not more, and the workload would be less. In 2021, I made the difficult decision to step down as a DSP supervisor due to the fact that we simply have no workforce. The rate of pay for direct support professionals needs to be raised to have a workforce. I'm here to ask that you please support the ARC of Virginia and Virginia Access Plan to rescue the developmental disability system. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next is Jesse Monroe.
Hello? Yes.
Hello, we hear you.
Yes, hi. Okay, good. Thank you. My name is Jesse Monroe. I'm with the ARC of Virginia. Thank you all for letting me speak today. The developmental disability system needs rescuing. In its current form, the system is dysfunctional and ineffective. Did you know that nearly 1 in 4 of the DD waiver slots allocated by the General Assembly for fiscal year 21 go unused due to a lack of providers and staffing? Did you know that 0 DD waiver slots allocated by the General Assembly for fiscal year 22 have been assigned to people with disabilities? Like all industries, the community of care is facing a devastating workforce crisis. But unlike all other industries, Virginia's DD system was in a workforce crisis before the pandemic due to low provider rates that were outdated and designed to pay staff at only the 50th percentile wage, making it impossible for the DD system of care to keep up with the labor market. Needs continue to rise while community capacity continues to drop. Providers are closing because they don't have staff. People with disabilities are losing their homes, being displaced without notice, and are subject to greater risk of harm because provider businesses can no longer afford to stay open. Last year, to address this crisis, the General Assembly convened a work group of stakeholders to develop solutions. This group met over the last year and provided a full report to the General Assembly with 4 recommendations. The ARC of Virginia, in collaboration with Virginia Access, have worked in partnership to develop a DD system rescue proposal. This funding proposal expands on the waiver work group recommendations with a focus on equity and sustainability for our system. While the proposed package is for the upcoming biennium, it is part of a larger strategy to transform our system from being reactive, only serving people when they are in urgent need, to a proactive system. To do this, 1, first fund equitable and sustainable rates. 2, invest in innovation to build community capacity. 3rd, fully fund priority 1 waiting lists. 4, once the system is stabilized, build core services for the other 10% of people on the waiting list before they are in crisis and their needs become urgent. Priority 1. Yeah. So please take that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is Angel Powell.
Good morning. My name is Angel Pye, and I am a proud home healthcare worker, and I am a proud member of SEIU 512 Norfolk. I have been a home healthcare worker for the last 4 years now, and a member unit for 2 years. I had to make the difficult decision to transition from being a counselor and providing care for my son, whom is chronically ill, because of the very fact that has been stated so often today, the high turnover with home health care workers. And my son needed stability and someone that would be there. And so I made the decision to leave a job that paid me very well and provided me with benefits to have no income and no benefits so that I could make sure that my son was taken care of. And then I found out about public partnership from an agency because I was doing everything that a worker would do. And they let me know, you can get paid for this. And so they signed me up and I went through the protocol. and I found out how much these workers made. And I was just I could not believe that people were doing this type of work and only made under $10 an hour. $10 an hour. Most high school students make more than $10 an hour. And they don't take care of their grandparents, their mothers, their children. A lot of people had to make the difficult decision to leave a lucrative job to take care of their family members because the workers aren't there and they're not consistent. I'm grateful for this income, but at times I still have to work another job and freelance and counseling, doing assessments or writing treatment plans for other people. Because what I make right now does not meet my daily needs for me and my son. We're not asking you to up the pay rate so that we can live a lavish lifestyle and go on vacations and buy frivolous things. We're asking you to go up on our pay rate before 2025 so that we can pay our rent on time, so that we can pay for insurance to supplement the 6 days of health care leave that we do have. We're asking you to go up on our pay rate so that we can buy groceries, because we're just over the poverty line to where we may not qualify for food stamps.
Ma'am,
So
you're 3
that,
minutes, so please wrap up.
so we just thank you. Thank you for all that you have done, but please, we ask that you can do better for us.
Okay,
Represent us.
Yes, ma'am.
Next is Julie Green.
Good morning. My name is Julie Green, and I'm with Child Care Aware of Virginia. I'm the Eastern Region Manager. What we do is help families find childcare, help families understand what to ask childcare providers when looking for childcare, and to support childcare providers to offer high-quality programs, both childcare centers and family day homes. And of course, we work with providers to become childcare subsidy vendors. I've worked in the childcare industry for about 38 years. My husband was in the military, and I started out as a family childcare home provider myself. With 16 grandchildren, I can tell you that supporting children is not just my work, it's my passion, both inside and outside my family. As we enter the 3rd year of the COVID pandemic, this has been such a trying time for so many, for families with children and also for childcare providers. Many people have been fortunate to be able to work remotely, but like other essential workers, childcare is an on-site job. I have a few recommendations for consideration as the General Assembly gets underway for the new session. First, to help parents return to the workforce, we urge that HB 2206 be extended through the calendar year 2022. This bill also only offered childcare assistance for school-age children if they had younger siblings under the age of 5. Parents of school-age children are still struggling to afford childcare. We urge that the law be expanded to support families with both young children and school-age children. Also, with regard to the childcare subsidy receipt, we urge that the Governor Northam's proposal to eliminate the 72-month family cap on childcare supply eligibility be eliminated. Childcare is expensive. Low-wage families need help to afford it. An arbitrary time limit on childcare assistance undermines the ability of parents to work and the opportunity for children to be in a safe place that promotes their healthy development. Next, childcare workers in the workforce that supports all workforces. While childcare is a work support, it's also the job of the childcare workers to promote healthy development of children. Yet for this important work, childcare workers earn low wages. Efforts have been made during the pandemic to provide bonuses, but what is really needed is a wage supplement strategy to increase the pay for children and childcare workers for the important work that they do. What I see on the ground is a tight labor market where childcare programs cannot complete and compete against other local businesses to recruit and retain workers. We urge the General Assembly to use some of the supplemental federal fund dollars that Virginia has received to develop wage supplement strategy with the Virginia Department of Education to boost the pay for childcare workers. Access to quality childcare is the road to full economic recovery in Virginia. Thank you for letting me speak today.
Thank you.
Next is, let's see, Daniel Gunn is not in the room. So next we'll have Ivy Kennedy.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
I'm here to ask that you support the Arc of Virginia and the Virginia Access Plan to rescue the development of disability system. I live in Virginia Beach. Thank you for this opportunity to connect online. And institutional bias by paying and home attendance at living wage. Support a policy that shows equity and access to home and community-based services. Stop incentivizing for serving people with disabilities in institutional type settings, such as group homes. The setting of where an individual receive attendant services should not dictate pay rates. Add a seat at the table for consumers. In Virginia, only providers are considered in feedback and service, etc. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Next is Ebony Newton.
Good morning. My name is Ebony Newton. I live in Norfolk, and I am a mother of a 19-year-old college student and an 8-year-old second grader. I am a home care provider, a proud union member of SEIU Virginia 512, a voter, and a taxpayer. I am here today to speak in support of quality home care and good union jobs for all home care workers in Virginia. Home care providers like me help older adults and people with disabilities live where they want to live in the comfort of their home and communities. We save the state millions of dollars by keeping people out of their emergency room and nursing homes. We have been on the front line of this pandemic every day, keeping older adults and people with disabilities healthy and safe. The pandemic has proven the importance of our work. I have been a home care provider for many years. I took care of my grandmother who had dementia. I took care of an aunt who had Parkinson's and an aunt who had cancer. I made sure they had quality of life into the end of their life. Now I care for a young man who is in his 30s, who is on the low end of the autism spectrum. He has Crohn's disease, screws in both feet, and has seizures. I love being a home care worker because receiving quality care at home by personal care attendants like myself help keeps families intact. Parents, grandparents, siblings, aunts, and uncles all want the same thing, the right to stay home with quality care. We are often called essential, but we are not treated as essential. Home care workers like me are public employees funded by the state Medicaid program, but we do not receive the benefits and pay of public employees. Together with the General Assembly over the past 2 years, we have made real progress. Raising pay, established paid sick days, and expanding home care to more people who need it. Thank you. Thank you for your funding raises, hazard pay, and PPE last year. This funding literally saved the lives of older adults and people with disabilities and home care workers like me. Let's continue to make progress, and let's continue to invest in a quality home care system for all Virginians so that we can continue to make Virginia the best state for working families. After all, home care workers for families make all work possible. To achieve these goals, I am here to ask you to fund the following items in this year's budget: quality home care for every person with a disability, older adults, and families that need it, a living wage for essential home care workers, and paid sick days for home care workers and all workers. Thank you. We look forward to working with you in the enrichment this session to keep our communities healthy and safe.
Thank you.
Kevin Benton is not in the room. So next would be Artesia Williams.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, my name is Artesia Williams. I live in Norfolk, Virginia. I'm a single mother of 2 beautiful kids, and I'm a home care worker, a taxpayer, a full-time student, and a proud member of the SEIU Virginia 512. While working full-time as an essential home care worker, we are not always treated as essential workers by low pay, low benefits, and how we're able to take care of ourselves and our families. Our service is valuable, and it goes unrecognized. This has to be a lack of knowledge, because we have all experienced someone being needing the help of a home care worker, whether it's their friends. Over the last 2 years, with the help of the General Assembly, we have made great progress in raising our pay, establishing our first sick days, and expanding home care to more people who need it. We truly thank you. So let's continue to protect our progress for older adults and people with different disabilities and home care workers by protecting our home care programs. After all, Virginia is for lovers. So let's ensure that Virginia is the best state for working families. To achieve these goals, I'm asking you to please fund quality home care for anyone who needs it with a disability and the elderly, a reasonable living wage for essential home care workers, and continued sick days for all home care workers and workers. We thank you, and we're looking forward to working with you in Richmond to keep our communities healthy and safe. And remember, a healthy economy is when people working can enrich the economy. We want to work and we want to enrich the economy. We thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Danielle Francis.
Good morning. My name is Danielle Francis. I'm from Yorktown, Virginia. I'm here today to request the DD waiver waitlist be funded and that you support the ARC of Virginia and Virginia Access Rescue Plan for the developmental disability system. Our son, Quinn, is 13 years old and he requires continual care and supervision. It's challenging since my husband and I both work full-time, my husband on his 23rd year as a public school teacher, me as a social worker. We juggle our schedules around assuring one of us is with him at all times. This is especially difficult when he has periods of not sleeping, meaning we also go without needed sleep and still have to perform professionally. Quinn has walked out of the home with a lunchbox full of popsicles and tangerines at 4 a.m. Thankfully, the police helped us secure him. The microwave caught fire once when he helped cook and pressed too many numbers. Our dining room ceiling recently poured water, and I found him upstairs, purple from turning the water to the highest heat setting, shower drain covered by a towel, floor flooded. It's exhausting keeping an eye on him at all times and managing life. His celiac disease results in violent illness when exposed to gluten or anything with wheat in it. When this happens, he has 3 to 4 days of GI issues, repeatedly requiring cleanup of his person and physical space, and he's never able to tell us what has happened. He has no ability to monitor his spinal cord condition or discern games, which could jeopardize his neck. He struggles to communicate symptoms and needs every single day. This requires us to be hyper alert, hyper vigilant, hyper parents. We recognize our life may always be that of parents with limited support caring for a child requiring constant supervision. A DD waiver would make a huge difference to us. One, it would provide access to needed therapies, speech, occupational, and physical therapy, which he frequently requires more than once a week. Private insurance either limits or does not pay for these treatments needed for his disabilities, and therapies average around $121 per session. Two, it would support learning and ongoing use of his assistive technology and his communication device. Three, it would give us respite, a chance to have a break. Child care providers don't want to be responsible for a 13-year-old with disabilities like his. After school, we shuffle him between cars and juggle his therapy schedule to assure he has care. Four, it would provide access to Medicaid, which would offset high costs to pay the 9 specialists he sees. His routine neurosurgery follow-up runs upwards of $500 a visit, custom orthotics upwards of $450 3 times a year. Routine labs are every 3 months right now. They're always hundreds of dollars. And then his routine x-rays for his spinal care on top of all of his therapies. In closing, please fund DD waivers and support the ARC of Virginia and Virginia Access Rescue Plan for the developmental disability system. Thank you for all of the important work you do every day for all of us. And we hope that you and your family stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Althena Jones.
Hi, good morning. My name is Athena Jones, and I live in Portsmouth, Virginia. I'm a home care worker, a voter, a taxpayer, and a proud member of SEIU Virginia 512. I'm here today to speak on behalf of quality care and good union jobs for all workers and all Virginians, and to protect the progress of home care workers that have made thus far. Now, in history, home care and home care workers is long because it's needed and it will always be needed. I had the opportunity to come across someone named Sadie. Now, Sadie believed as a worker, she said, they give me just what I think I'm worth. Well, historically, home care work and worth was marginalized until they decided to demand and command their worth, an industry which is over 50% African American, and 9 out of 10 of the workers are women. So in 1881, when 20 laundry women fought for and won rights as a worker, it was impressive. In 1934, in Harlem, predominantly African-American women allied together to start the Domestic Workers Union and fought to be included in the Social Security Act. In 1974, home care and domestic workers were excluded from the Fair Labor Standard, relegating home care workers to no more than glorified babysitters. Home care workers that take care of family members, home care workers that take care of clients, many people where they had to resign from their positions to take care of loved ones, allowing their loved ones to stay at home and live in their community and saving the state millions of dollars. It wasn't until 2011 that 2.5 million home care workers were finally included in the Fair Labor Standard as workers and earned the right to be categorized as workers. So when 2020 came around, home care workers continued to work as essential workers during the entire pandemic. We never stopped working because this job supported communities of people who have disabilities, older adults, and countless other communities. What is the worth? What is the worth of the people that we work for? And what is the worth of the work that we do? We are thankful for the General Assembly and for the sick days, the pay raises, expanding home care, and the hazard pay. But when 2022 came, we want to make sure that we protect the progress. Virginia was last when it came to what workers were under Oxfam. Very dead last. Now Virginia is 23 for workers. That's progress. But we need to make sure that Virginia moves forward. So let me tell you, Sadie was 100 years ago in 1920. And the work that she does will continue to today and as long as people exist on this planet. Protect the progress. for home care workers, people with intellectual disabilities, physical disabilities, and aging. Many Virginians are depending on the support and the programs that support their lives. So God forbid anything happened to you or your family members. What would be their worth? What would the community that they would want to be in? Who would you want to take care of you? And where would you want to live? So I'm here to make sure that the support for the funding within this year's budget for quality care for everyone and people with disabilities, living wage and essential for all essential workers and home care workers, and sick days for home care workers as well. I thank you for your support. Please let us know if there's anything that we can do to support that with our elect governor that's coming in, because we are all invested in a better Virginia, which includes all working Virginians. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your efforts, and thank you for your ear.
Thank you.
Natasha White. Kevin Latham.
Good morning. My name is Kevin Layton. I'm a person with disabilities who lives in my own apartment in Chesapeake, Virginia, with support from staff, paid by my Medicaid waiver. In order to have a life like yours, I need help. My staff helps me with going to the doctor, grocery shopping, and community events. They also do cleaning, cooking, hygiene, technology, and taking my medications. I like to go to church and to the gym to work out. I'm not always able to go because we don't have enough staff. Today, I'm asking you to pass a budget with Medicaid rates that pay staff enough so I can get the support I need. I'm asking that staff be paid a higher living wage so that I can live a life like yours. Thank you for listening to me. And please take my words into consideration. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next is Keisha Turner.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Good morning. My name is Keisha Turner. I am a person with developmental disabilities who lives in my own apartment in Chesapeake, Virginia. I receive support from staff paid by my Medicaid waiver. My state delegate is James Leftwich, and my state senator is Lionel Sproul Sr. I am here to talk about how to pay my staff enough so I can have the support I need. I desire to have a life like yours. In order to do that, my staff assists me with transportation support to my doctor's appointments, outings in the community, and with my friends, transportation to church, paying my bills, budgeting, and learning how to live independently in my own home. Staff assists me with meal planning, cooking, grocery shopping, laundry, activities of daily living such as my hygiene, learning technology, playing activities with my friends and family, my medication, and how to update my calendar and stay on task. There are times I cannot hang out with my friends or family due to short staffing. My plans has been canceled if there isn't enough staff to transport me to the gym, to work, or events in the community I want to attend. A shortage of staff means that my life gets put on hold and I'm not able to do the things I want to do. I am not able to live the life I want to live as you do. Today, I am asking you to pass a budget with Medicaid rates that pay staff enough so that I can get the support I need. In conclusion, I want to do the things I never imagined that I could do. I am asking you today to increase higher living wages for my staff. The increase will help with staff shortage and give me the chance to live the life I want to live, and that's a life like yours.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're just about out. You're out of time.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is Grace Fazell. If she's not in the room, next would be Jean Infantino.
Hi, good morning. My name is Jean Infantino, and I represent Chesapeake Public Schools. I'm speaking on behalf of our superintendent, Dr. Jared Cotton, and members of our Chesapeake School Board. I'd like to start by thanking you for the one-time money you provided to school divisions for construction needs. Chesapeake Public Schools received $15 million that will help address maintenance needs in our buildings. Our board approved a legislative agenda for the 2022 session that included a focus on increased school funding. 3 funding areas noted in the agenda are removing the 40% non-recurring requirement restrictions on lottery funds for fiscal year 2021-2022, improving teacher compensation, and eliminating the support position funding cap. The pandemic has caused retirements and resignations of teachers, teacher assistants, and many support positions such as school nutrition, bus drivers, and assistants and custodians, and many positions remain unfilled. Compounding the problem is a teacher shortage with few qualified applicants to hire. With more funding available for this biennial budget and with more emphasis being placed on public education, the opportunity exists for this session of the General Assembly to take some long-lasting action to improve the financial status of our school divisions. The governor's proposed budget has over $750 million designated for school divisions for a 10% pay raise for teachers, 5% for each of the biennium. As I noted, maintaining quality teachers is one of our goals and a great need for our division. No one deserves a raise more than our teachers who have endured significant hardships during the pandemic. Providing funding for higher teacher salaries would help us attract more candidates to this profession. However, when such an increase is proposed, it only includes the state share of the average teacher salary for only those positions funded by the state. Because most all school divisions employ many more positions than those funded by the state, imposing the 10% raise causes school divisions to have to provide 100% of that raise for any positions not funded, as well as 100% of the fringe benefits such as FICA, VRS, and health insurance for those non-SOQ positions. For example, in Chesapeake, it takes approximately $3.8 million to provide a 1% pay increase for all full-time employees. According to the governor's proposed budget, Chesapeake will receive $28.5 million over the 2 years. The cost of the raise will actually be almost $10 million more than that, all coming from local dollars. The impact will be even worse for school divisions struggling to get any increase from the locality. An alternative to the 10% money would be to eliminate the support cap on certain positions. The elimination of the support cap would be a long-term increase in basic aid. I want to thank you again for the work you've done on behalf of public education, and thank you in advance for your consideration of an increase in sustainable funding for the students of Chesapeake and all of Virginia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Sherry Petties. I think she's in the room.
Hi, can you hear me now?
Yes, we have you.
Okay, thank you very much. On May 15th, 2015, I acquired a traumatic brain injury from an accident when my car was involved in the underride. When my car collided with that semi, my life as I knew it would be forever changed. I was fortunate enough to be able to attend Denby House, where I relearned some very basic living skills, such as making pictures of drink from powdered product, putting 7 pages of a morning book in order, and counting change. While these things seem small and irrelevant to life, they were celebration worthy to me. Today, I have employment, and I believe it's only through the services of Denby House that I received, my employment has been made possible. For the first time since my accident, I see possibilities of real independence. I feel I am a brain injury service success. I celebrate living in an area where I had services and support, but what if I didn't? Where would I be today? Brain injury is the #1 disabler, and unfortunately, while 82% of Virginia has brain injury services offered, there are those in areas where services such as without services such as the Middle Peninsula, and there are those who have lost valuable service. These people live without the much needed support and services. We are asking today for $570,000 to expand services to those without services, such as those in the Middle Peninsula region, and restore services to those who have lost programs in the Shenandoah region of our state. These funds would allow the hiring of additional caseworkers needed, 2 adult caseworkers and 2 pediatric caseworkers. I want to thank you for your time today and your consideration, and try to kick in some extra money for virtual services. I don't think I'm ever going to leave home again. Have a good day.
Thank you.
Next is Cindy Curtis.
Good morning. My name is Cindy Curtis, and I'm a member of the Virginia Beach Community Services Board. I'd like to take a moment to talk about a few of the issues that are important to our board and others throughout the Commonwealth, some of which you've already heard, so I'll try to lessen my comments and just add a voice of support. Top priority for us this budget season is our workforce, which you have heard consistently this morning. Like many other CSBs, we've experienced a significant number of vacant positions, despite our best efforts and those of the City of Virginia Beach to recruit and retain highly qualified individuals. Our board strongly supports the VA CSB recommended investment of $167.5 million in the CSB workforce to support those efforts, in addition to clinical licensure, supervision, and loan repayment programs. If we continue to experience the amazing losses that we've had in our workforce, we will undoubtedly have a negative impact on the quality and quantity of services that we offer to our consumers. Services like our developmental disability waiver program that have helped John, and please understand this is not the real name of this individual, a young man who has been diagnosed with a mental health issue and intellectual disability. John's been in our foster care system since 2009 with no family support. Due to his unique needs, he had been placed in different foster homes and residential treatment facilities. After he received a DD community living waiver slot, his case manager was able to help him find a group home that was near to the school he was attending. This gave John the choice to select a home that fit his needs and was close to familiar surroundings, which is oh so important. I'm pleased to let you know he's now thriving in his chosen group home and continues to develop close friendships who live in that home now. John's story is just one example of the many individuals who benefit from the DD waiver program because it allows them to stay as independent as their circumstances allow while continuing to receive the supports they need to promote their personal wellness and quality of life as important members of our community. Unfortunately, there is a waiting list for this service, which speaks to the need it serves in our community. Currently, 11 individuals are on our priority 1 waiting list, and we have 280 total who are waiting for services. We're grateful for the $39 million in new general fund dollars in the introduced budget for the 1,200 additional waiver slots. Please work to preserve these slots in the introduced budget. We also support an increase in waiver reimbursement rates for providers as proposed by the Virginia Association of CSPs. Thank you for your hard work during this time. Thank you for your continued commitment to our citizenry. And on behalf of the Virginia Beach CSB, I thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you, Cindy.
Next is Mary Crutchfield.
Hello, can you see and hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So I'm Mary Crutchfield. I'm a psychiatric nurse practitioner in Virginia Beach, and I run a private practice psychiatric clinic, and I've been working in this area for about 10 years locally. I've been through a multitude of practices that shut down because of fraudulent funding, Medicare fraud, things like that, and finally opened a practice that was not taking insurance. And even with the fees that I'm having to ask for, I have a wait list of over 20 patients trying to get in at any given time with crisis. I have called facilities looking for help for patients and have been unable to find facilities that could hospitalize people, especially with serious mental illness. I spoke with the CEO of one locally, and they are down many nurses because of COVID. There's no step-down programs or housing for people that are leaving the hospital with serious mental illness. So I'm now seeing people that are schizophrenic that have nowhere to go after a 5 to 7 day hospitalization stay, which is not long enough to stabilize people. And so they come out and are told they have a hotel room or that they are able to contact the CSB, which is not doing intakes for a couple months. We're really in a mental health crisis. And so for it to affect me, I felt that I should call and advocate on behalf of all my patients, as well as the community, that we are in a crisis that I've never seen in the last 10 years. This also includes young individuals with eating disorders that are stuck at home because of COVID. Those rates are dramatically increased, and our phone calls alone have increased over 50% just for people looking for help, with very few places to send them to get any sort of help. And in case, I'm in the Hampton Roads area, and locally within the last few years, many of the local psychiatrists have retired because of their age. They ended up, not doing their private practices. And I don't know if you've seen anything on the news, but there was a local practice that had about 60,000 patients earlier this year that shut its doors overnight, and it's flooded our systems. So all in all, it's a disaster. So I wanted to make sure to show up today to just say that any mental health funding, specifically, I think for the seriously mental ill, for step-down programs for housing and some sort of in-between from hospital to outpatient, is desperately needed to keep people stable and out of the hospital. I have sent 2 people to other states within the week to get help because I couldn't get them in anywhere here for acute hospitalization. That's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Next is Natasha White.
Hi, good morning. First, I want to say thank you for allowing me to join this platform. My name is Natasha White, and I'm the coordinator for the Virginia Coalition on Solitary Confinement. Last year, Senator Morrissey introduced SB 1301, which was killed because of a huge fiscal impact. After numerous meetings with Senate Finance Committee and the Department of Corrections, the bill we will be submitting for this legislative session will still have a fiscal impact, but not such a large one. I want to stress the importance of the millions and millions of dollars that other states have saved, which can be redirected to law enforcement and correctional staff to give them higher wages so that there's not so much understaffing and such miserable career. Nobody wants to work for barely nothing. It will make the jails a lot safer, the jails and prisons a lot safer, and the communities. When these individuals are released, they would have gotten trainings and programmings needed to address the underlying issues of incarceration. I'm technically here just to ask that you support us in passing the bill coming up. We don't have a number as of yet, but we are trying to limit the amount of days someone can be in solitary confinement for no more than 15 days at a time. The amount of staffing it takes to separate or isolate somebody cost a lot of money. As I said before, coming from the whole solitary campaign, numerous states have saved millions of dollars with the implementation of limiting the amount of days a person can be held in confinement, not counting that, you know, these are human lives we are talking about in the damage, the psychological and medically damaging aspect of not having human interaction is something that we as a state need to be held accountable for, the way we treat people, no matter where they are, the amount of money we spend on healthcare and social services with people coming home from prison who have not gotten the treatment they need and cannot take care of themselves. So once again, I want to say thank you for allowing me to speak on this issue, and I hope that you are all in support of the bill when it comes up.
Thank you.
Next is Heather Shivers.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, sir. I am a mother of a serious mental child that is 22 years old. He has been hospitalized in the last 2 years 5 times. He was just released yesterday, and no discharge plans or resources. He has been fighting this. I have been trying to get help for this. There's nowhere to be able to put him to get long-term care. I have him home. I had to quit my job, move in with my parents, and we need funding to help with this. Everywhere I've called, they say that they can't help. They can't help. He's schizoaffective. There's needs to be more research on this for these families. It's a horrible situation to have to deal with this and bring them home and try to take care of them and have no help to take care. It's hard to get them to go to a doctor, let alone take medications. I'm sitting here and not knowing what to do, and we need help. There's not enough. You don't hear nothing about mental illness awareness. It's about everything else. I found plenty of places for substance abuses. He doesn't have that problem. So I would just like you to take that in consideration, please, and help our mentally ill families. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up is Dr. Joyce Harvey.
Did I do okay?
Yeah. Joyce Harvey is coming next.
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am, we can.
Thank you for this opportunity to join you today and talk about issues of importance to my community, family, and myself. I'm Dr. Joyce Harvey, the chairwoman of the Virginia Beach Community Services Board. In these uncertain and difficult times, it's important now more than ever that CSBs have the resources necessary to serve as safety nets for individuals with behavioral health and developmental disability needs. Take Jeff, for example. He is a client that is served by our jail outpatient services program. This program prepares jailed individuals for release by ensuring they're connected and the necessary supports when they leave. Jeff came to the Virginia Beach Correctional Center with an extensive history of substance abuse and had been jailed in other nearby cities for the same reason. He agreed to participate in our program in the jail and worked with one of our caseworkers, Brad. for more than a year to prepare for his eventual release and discharge this past March. Upon his release, Jeff has linked to CSB services to continue his care, which included medication management, case management, substance use treatment, and support groups. Jeff has remained sober since his release and is currently working full-time in a relative's business. Jeff's story is one of many. 97% of individuals who complete the program do not return to jail after re-entering the community. Our partnership with Sheriff Stawley, in conjunction with the funding provided by the General Assembly, has led to overwhelmingly positive outcomes for 387 individuals who have completed the program since it began in 2020. We thank you for your support in this initiative and ask that you continue to approve funding for this critical program. Throughout the pandemic, our CSB has seen an increased demand for service as members of our community continue to grapple with the changed world we find ourselves in. The ongoing expansion of STEP Virginia has improved consistency, access to, and quality of services offered by CSBs throughout the Commonwealth. There is still work to be done, however. We fully support the STEP VA project and urge the General Assembly to support the DBHDS and the Virginia CSB request to fund STEP Virginia initiatives to create a service system that is effective and reduces overall costs by fostering wellness, reducing state and private hospital admissions, decreasing emergency room visits, and reducing involvement in the criminal justice system. I thank you for your time and ongoing support for these essential services.
Thank you.
Okay. Up next is Bruce Harlow.
Good morning, delegates, honorable senators. Thank you for your time. I come to you this morning as a father of three. Wonderful, beautiful, talented, accomplished children. I come to you, this is my youngest, Bruce Jr. And if anybody knows the Fender Stratocaster, you can see how little he is, and he is a gifted musician. In 2013, he started acting strange. I'm 64 years old. I had no education about mental illness. And the next 3 years or more became a true living hell. And I couldn't get services, and poor services when you could get them. The result of that, my son struggles with schizophrenia, and in July of 2016, the command hallucinogenic voices told him that I needed to die. And I don't know if y'all can see this, but 2016, July, he attempted to take my life. And I am a walking miracle. I have neurological problems. I spent Christmas Day in the parking lot of Eastern State Hospital in Williamsburg, just to be near my son. As we've all heard this morning, everybody is in serious pain. We come to you today, everybody I've listened to, we're pouring out our pain. Please, please, please do what you can to put the dollars where everybody is asking for this morning. CSBs, 11 critical, 280 needing services. These are people that, think of the movie Beautiful Mind, John Nash, brilliant mathematician. It's a fine line between genius and insanity. Please help with the dollars. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Next is Tara Hassan Taylor.
Hello, good morning. My name is Tara Hassan Taylor. I'm the State City Gun Violence Prevention Lead for Moms Demand Action. I'd like to ask you to please support the proposed budget item for $24.7 million to address gun violence in Virginia. The funds will establish the Center for Firearm Violence Intervention and Prevention at the Department of Criminal Justice. Many times we see life-saving bills being passed by because the money isn't in the budget or we are told we need to collect data. If we establish this center, we will already have these two things in place and ready to share. Those of us that live and work in the communities that need this intervention the most are well aware of the data and root causes of violence, and we realize the urgency in passing life-saving legislation. But we really look forward to there being a way for it not to be denied. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Next is Eileen Wool. Or if she's not in, Robert Matuzak.
My name is Robert Matuzak. I'm a 56-year-old person living in Virginia Beach with a developmental disability resulting from a spinal cord injury that I sustained at the age of 17, almost 39 years ago. Because I was younger than 22 when I became paralyzed, I meet the definition of a person with developmental disability and have a DD waiver. I'm a recent graduate from Old Dominion University and currently serve on the Advocacy, Outreach, and Training Committee as a first-year board member with the Virginia Board for People with Disabilities. I accepted this appointment because I wanted to use my disability life, struggles, and accomplishments to help improve the lives of other Virginians with developmental disabilities. I come here today not as a representative of the board, but instead as a disability advocate whose purpose is to give voice to the underserved and unheard disability and elderly population whose needs are not being met through Virginia's community-based services. While the COVID-19 pandemic is responsible for the deaths and illnesses of many of my fellow Americans, it has had devastating effects on the delivery of community-based services due to a significant shortage in caregivers. This shortage in caregivers has placed the health and living conditions of people with disabilities and the elderly at risk, especially those of us living alone with limited emergency backup. This pandemic is 2 years old, and one of the main reasons for the caregiver shortage is money. Caregivers were underpaid prior to the pandemic, and they still are today. The current hourly wage is simply not enough incentive to bring them back into this field. However, this caregiver crisis is not limited to Virginia. The United States is facing a caregiver crisis, and this crisis is not getting the attention that it deserves. As a consequence of this silence, the disabled and elderly are at great risk of being forced into nursing homes. At least this is my current situation. I no longer have an in-home or personal care agency, and it is exceedingly difficult to hire a caregiver through consumer-directed services for only $11.81. On December 10th, 2021, my DD support coordinator submitted a regional support team referral to the Virginia Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disability Services. It is my understanding that the RST referral process is a final effort to acquire community assistance for an individual with a developmental disability facing nursing home placement. I assumed the receipt of an RST referral meant that the problem was dire, thus deserving priority intervention on behalf of the RST. Because we heard nothing, because we heard nothing from the RST, I emailed them on the December 28th, only to find that they would not be reviewing my referral until January 20th, 2022.
Sir, wrap it up, please, if you will. Your 3 minutes is up.
All right, in that case, I submitted this in writing and I ask all panelists to please read it because I'm going to be institutionalized. And if you don't increase the rates, you're going to put more people into nursing homes as well. And the Supreme Court's ruling in 1999 on the Olmstead Act will be for nothing, and institutions will start housing the elderly and disabled once again.
Yes, sir.
Please
Sir.
read my submission in entirety.
We will. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next is Eileen Wall.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Hi, I'm the Offshore Energy Program Director with the Sierra Club Virginia chapter. Thank you for offering me this opportunity to speak. There is at least one thing I know that we can all agree on. We all love offshore wind. We love the thousands of jobs it brings, especially to Hampton Roads. These are jobs for everyone, folks with degrees, with or without high school diplomas, returning citizens, all offering Hampton Roads communities the opportunity to build wealth and be lifted from poverty. Offshore wind offers Hampton Roads the opportunity to rebrand itself from one of despair to instead being one of hope and opportunity. We can evolve from being the poster child for climate change with the flooding and the sea level rise we all experience to be instead one as a leader in this country's massive clean energy revolution and partaking as much as possible in offshore wind's $109 billion industry. But unfortunately, nothing in this budget reflects Virginia's interest and commitment to advancing offshore wind specifically and directly. There's nothing dedicated to offshore wind workforce development and job training programs, and more importantly, to the promotion of those job opportunities. Offshore wind jobs are maritime jobs, such as welding, pipe fitting, fabrication. And as we all well know, there are huge job deficiencies within the shipbuilding industry that also employ these job skills in Hampton Roads. But offshore wind is exciting. It's very sexy. It is our future. It's something that every young person employed in this industry can go to bed at night knowing that they are doing their part to protect Mother Earth and to build a more sustainable and create a new sustainable new world. And they could provide a great hook when promoting these job opportunities and recruiting folks to the job training programs. So it's time to get organized about job training programs and get them promoted, especially to disadvantaged communities, because no one else is out there to do it. It is incumbent upon the state to organize these programs and get these programs promoted. So please revisit and reconsider adding in the $15 million proposal that was presented at the December HRPDC meeting for offshore wind development in your budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Joy Spencer.
Hello, good morning. My name is Joy Spencer, and I am the CEO for Moms in Motion, a home and community-based waiver provider. We provide service facilitation to over 9,000 people with disabilities in Virginia who receive personal care and respite under the Virginia Medicaid waivers. Service facilitation is a unique service line to what you're used to hearing about or working with. It's a service that's exclusive to Medicaid. 100% of our revenue is from Medicaid. Therefore, without Medicaid rate increases, we have no way to increase our revenue for this service. It's also unique that it spans two waivers, the developmental disability waivers and the CCC plus waivers. And it's the only service that spans both of those waiver groups. Please don't use that as a reason to leave us out of rate rebates again, as we were in 2016. I'm asking for your support for the DD system rescue plan. As you're aware, the Virginia Medicaid waiver system is in crisis. Without immediate action, thousands of Virginians with developmental disabilities who rely on a provider network for essential supports will be facing a loss of those community-based services. Others who were recently approved for funding will continue to go unserved due to lack of capacity as a result of the worsening workforce crisis. Providers across Virginia are not able to hire and retain staff at the current reimbursement rate, and this is magnified further in Northern Virginia. Much work has been done recently to illustrate the Medicaid waiver system has been chronically and significantly underfunded in Virginia since its advent. To that end, the General Assembly, in special session, approved a temporary bridge increase of 12.5% for community-based services recently. Thank you for that. I appreciate it so much. You have no idea. The need for significant increases for all services is further supported by the Burns and Associates study that was mandated by the General Assembly.
Yes, he's there already.
I'm sorry, I'm hearing other background noise. So my call to action for you is that we desperately need your support. Please provide funding to implement the recommended Burns and Associates study rates for all home and community-based services. If the recommended rates are not adopted, at a minimum, do not allow the temporary increase of the 12.5% to home and community-based providers to be removed in July. This was meant to be a stopgap measure until new rates were implemented. The governor recognized the critical importance of increased funding for some services in his proposed, excuse me, please mute. The governor recognized the critical importance of increased funding for some of the services in his proposed budget, but just 8 of the 30 DD services. But the system is a continuum of services, and if one service affects another, they're all interconnected. The entire system is critical and needs immediate funding. So in wrapping, since my 3 minutes is almost up, I want to just ask for your support for the DD rescue plan. Please allow for a telehealth option as a delivery service, and please support the rate rebates for all home and community-based services under Medicaid waivers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have William.
Mr. Chairman, I want to thank you for the opportunity to provide comments today. I'm William Massey, President and CEO of the Peninsula Agency on Aging, and I speak today on behalf of the area agencies on aging serving Hampton Roads, and specifically they are the Eastern Shore Area Agency on Aging, Senior Services of Southeastern Virginia, Bay Aging, which serves the Middle Peninsula and Northern Eight counties, and of course then the Peninsula Agency on Aging. I'm also speaking on behalf of the almost 2 million Virginians who are 60 years of age and older. Area agencies on aging provide home community-based services that enable older adults to remain in their homes where virtually every older Virginian wants to be. The pandemic has focused attention on the lifeline that these services provide, such as home delivered meals, Meals on Wheels, transportation, home care, etc. It's no secret that older Virginians have not been a priority at the state level for at least the past 20 years. As noted above, with the ranks of older Virginians approaching 2 million, this must change. I urge you to make aging services and older adults a priority as you determine needs and provide appropriations to address those needs. We are specifically, the area agencies on aging are specifically asking for an appropriation of $150,000 to make demographic services available to area agencies on aging. This would enable us to compete for contracts with healthcare providers and healthcare insurers to provide home and community-based services to address the social determinants of health, which I think most, if not all of us, would agree can very significantly reduce the cost of direct healthcare. These contracts also generate additional funding for supportive services that are provided by area agencies on aging and reduces the pressure on tax dollars to provide these services. I thank you for your past support for aging services. And once again, I urge you to elevate aging in the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thank you.
Justice Davis.
Good afternoon. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today. I'm Nicole Davis, the Executive Director of the Independent Center, which serves the South Hampton Roads area, as well as a board member for the Virginia Association for Centers for Independent Living. My goal is to share with you information about centers, but also the need for additional funding for services throughout the Commonwealth. Centers for Independent Living are, in my humble opinion, the best kept secret. When my disability hit when I turned 18, I was lost as to how to access my community again. My doctors were wonderful at being able to tell me how to manage my epilepsy, but they had very little information on how I could request a work accommodation, what to do about accessing transportation, how to talk and come to terms with the fact that I would more than likely have seizures in public and what to do when. Those kinds of barriers and more are exactly what Centers for Independent Living work with. Centers for Independent Living, or CILS for short, help people with disabilities understand how they can live a life that they want with the services and supports that are available, but also how to identify and advocate when services are not available but needed. Unfortunately, in Virginia, not all people with disabilities have access to a center. There are 5 key areas that do not have a center currently that they can reach out to. Those Virginians with disabilities are left without a peer to provide them with key information that will allow them to not only access services, but ensure that they have an advocate as well. I and the Independent Center encourage the budget amendments that would do 2 key things. The first would be to establish centers in the following area: Northern Neck, South Side, PD 14, the Middle Peninsula, and Lower PD 9. But also we're asking for an increase in state funding for the current 17 centers that Virginia has. Centers for Independent Living have seen an increase in the number of Virginians with disabilities requesting and receiving services. The need for support and services as people navigate life and the changes that are needed due to COVID-19 have caused centers to see an increase in the amount of people we serve, but also the amount of time that we work with them. A lot of stuff has moved to be technology based, and not everyone understands or has access to technology. These increase in funds would support centers in allowing them to ensure that needing care does not mean that you have to receive it from a nursing home, securing and advocating housing as people try to obtain it. And if you're in a nursing home and you wish to transition back to the community, you would not only have the support to do so, but someone who understands what home and community-based services are available, but also how to make this transition possible. We work closely with youth with disabilities to support them as they transition from high school to post-secondary opportunities, so that it doesn't mean that they have to graduate to the couch, but they can pursue something else.
Wrap it up, please.
Okay, I urge you to include funding for Centers for Independent Living. I thank you for your support over the years and for your continued support and commitment. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Next, we have Travis Davidson.
Hello. Hello. Thank you for your time this morning. I first want to say I'm a director with Bike Norfolk. I'm on the advocacy director, and I'm also a board member for the Virginia Bicycle Federation. Previously was the president of the Tidewater Bicycle Association, and all my comments will be the chair, but I want to take just a slight moment to say hello to Mr. Knight, who welcomed me into his office and talked to me in 2015 about some legislation that he ended up not supporting for me. But we had a great conversation. I really left respecting him, and I don't have to agree with everyone to be their friend. So thank you, Mr. Knight. You made a friend that day, and I hope I can become friends with all of you on the committee. I'm wanting to talk today about the budget for trails that has been proposed by Governor Northam. $233 million has been proposed for trails, which is fantastic. I'm so thankful to see that number, as our state is starting to recognize the importance of trails for our economic development. My understanding is the majority of those funds are kind of intended to go to the Fall Line Trail in Richmond, the Shenandoah Valley Trail out in Harrisonburg, and the Eastern Shore Trail. But what concerns me a little bit being here in Hampton Roads is we have some great trail potentialities here in Hampton Roads that go through all of our major cities. The Southampton Roads Trail goes from Suffolk to Virginia Beach Oceanfront. Virginia Beach has prioritized their Virginia Beach Trail that crosses Virginia Beach as their number one trail priority. That would be part of the Southampton Roads Trail to connect all those cities. Suffolk has been working on their portion and finished their fourth portion of their aspect of the Southampton Roads Trail this year. Chesapeake finished their first portion this year and has two more to go. Portsmouth has some funds and is trying to finish part of their portion of the trail. And Norfolk is working diligently in developing a plan to build their trail from the Elizabeth River Trail out to Newtown Road, where the Virginia Beach Trail would exist. But also the Birthplace of America Trail has extended that concept to go all the way to the James River Ferry, which would be amazing to have a trail that would connect us to the Cap to Cap Trail and get us to Richmond. We would increase use of local riders and also long distance touring riders. The Adventure Cycling Association has had a 40-year Trans-America Trail. It's their most popular trail for people riding from Oregon to Yorktown currently. And they would like to change that trail to end in Virginia Beach. Most of the people riding that trail are staying in hotels in the evenings and buying most of their meals out. They spend a lot of money in the localities they go through. And we have an opportunity to encourage those thousands of riders to not end their coast-to-coast ride in the York River, but actually dip their wheel in the Atlantic Ocean and Virginia Beach. So I would ask that we find some money to increase that budget to look at our trails here locally. The Birthplace of America Trail also goes down and extends the Cap to Cap Trail down through Hampton, through Newport News and Hampton, and has some really exciting possibilities going on through those cities as well. And so my current understanding is the budget that's intended doesn't fund our local opportunities in the peninsula or on the south side. So I'd ask the committee to look into increasing the budget to provide some funds to build more trails here locally, as our localities clearly want them. Another example is Virginia Beach just applied for about a $15 million federal grant to build part of their important trail. And unfortunately, that grant did not go through. But with more promised matching funds from the state or other availabilities, Virginia Beach is determined to continue to apply for federal grants and to get their trail built. So I thank you all for your time, and I thank you for your friendship, and I look forward to working with you all in the future.
Thank you.
Next is Robert Kell. I'm sorry, Robert Kell's not present. Kendra Mason. Bill Fertig.
Sorry for the delay in clicking to make myself available. Thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning on behalf of the United Spinal Association on the topic of providing complex rehab technology wheelchairs for residents of facilities. I live in Virginia Beach, Virginia, and I respectfully request that you vote yes to amend the Virginia Medicaid budget to cover complex rehab technology, CRT, custom power and manual wheelchairs. CRT wheelchairs are medically necessary equipment that allow independence and prevent secondary medical complications, most importantly, bed sores, AKA pressure injuries. A serious pressure injury can too often cause someone life-threatening complications. And CRT chairs are one of the preventive measures for appropriate seating for people who are paralyzed, so that they are not going to, incur this massive medical problem. Myself, I live with paraplegia as well for over 22 years. And my CRT manual wheelchair has allowed me to be employed full-time, continue raising my family, and to start a very successful family business outside of work. Without my CRT chair, I would have accomplished none of this since my injury. Full medical treatment for one of these pressure injuries, if not provided the appropriate seating surface, can require surgical intervention such as flap surgery, followed by many months or up to several years of healing time, costing Virginia Medicaid up to $150,000 or more of Medicaid dollars, funds better spent on care for other Virginians, where that seating surface, it might seem like the $500 cost for a specialized cushion is excessive, but I would argue the cost effectiveness is very clear when one digs into the dollars for dollars situation. I'm the director of United Spinal Association's Resource Center for the last 16 years, and I've met and assisted many younger Virginians, including here in Southeast Virginia and other regions of Virginia, both men and women, some in their 20s and 30s, who are denied the CRT wheelchairs they require for mobility. Their situation might be they might not have an accessible home available right away to come home to, plus the requisite personal care at home in order to allow them to return home from rehab. And they end up getting remanded to life in a skilled nursing facility. We would respectfully argue that they should not be denied access to appropriate CRT wheelchairs that I can get with private insurance, simply because they happen to be a resident of a nursing home. And this is the kind of thing that limits them from ever getting out and being successful, not having the proper. One last example, and then I'll wrap up. Eva DeCourcy, who has submitted comments directly, who lives in Northern Virginia, is one of the constituents that I've worked with a long time. She lives in a skilled nursing facility in Arlington County, and she is denied a CRT power wheelchair because it's not reimbursed by Virginia Medicaid, despite their clear need as a woman living with quadriplegia. Well-meaning friends, in her case, located a donated wheelchair, and United Spinal used some leverage to help her get it adjusted a little bit, but it still does not fit her properly and has caused medical complications for her, including pressure injuries. With an appropriate CRT type wheelchair, she would again be fully active in her community as she, wishes to live her life and not be restricted to bed in a facility, especially under these COVID restriction times. I respectfully thank you for listening to our side of this story and remain available for any questions following up on this important issue.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Mr. Chair, that concludes the speakers.
Okay, well, first and foremost, we thank the public for weighing in on this, and the Senate and House Money Committees will take everything you've said under advisement, and we very much appreciate staff putting this together and the members of the money committees that are on this call. So this concludes our meeting, and thank you very much.